How much are these worth? Hi, I'm Kent and welcome to Turn a Wood Bowl. Today we're going to talk about the delicate subject of how do we price our bowls, and we're going to talk about how much these are worth. In this video, I'm going to share with you the method that I use for pricing my bowls. I'm also going to share with you why everything we're talking about might not apply to you and what you shouldn't do. Also, I'm going to help you apply my particular formula to your bowls, no matter where you are in the world and what currency you use. So stay tuned. Let's jump right into pricing your bowls. So how did we even get to this point? Well, if you're like me, you started turning bowls and it was a lot of fun and you kept doing it over and over and over. And before long, all of your counter space and your tabletops were consumed with bowls. And you might have a spouse that is saying something to the effect of, "Honey, what are we going to do with all of these bowls?" And your initial instinct, like me, is, well, we're going to keep them all because they're all beautiful and I love each and every one of them. They're kind of like my children, and therefore I'm going to keep all of them. But that only works for so long, and once you have so many of them, you just have to get rid of some, and you've given some away to friends and family, but there's still plenty more. You might get to the point where you start thinking about selling your bowls, which is great. However, there's a few things we need to consider first, and there's a lot of information that we need to gather before we can start doing the selling of our bowls. It's a good idea to really look at what your intentions are. If your intentions are just to clear off some shelves or some tabletops and make your spouse happy, that's one thing. If you're thinking, well, if I sell some of my bowls, I can pay for some of that expensive equipment I bought, or if I sell some of my bowls, I can buy that cool equipment that I'm dreaming of, that's a great idea too. You might even be at the point where you're saying, you know what, I really want to start a business. How do I go about doing that? Those are all great reasons for starting the process of figuring out how much your bowls are really worth. One other thing that we need to consider that's very important is, are we really ready to price and sell our bowls? We have to be honest with ourselves. Our ego can be quite deceptive on a wide spectrum, from really overconfident. Maybe you just turned your first bowl and you think, this is amazing, I need to sell this for $500 and start getting rich. Probably isn't the case. It might be, but it's probably not the case. To the other extreme, which is actually more common, somebody that's turned quite a few bowls, that has built their skill set, and they're not quite sure or quite confident enough to sell their bowls, but their bowls are actually quite beautiful and people would be willing to purchase those. So we need to really gauge where we are in that spectrum. The easiest way to do that is to go out in the marketplace. Go online onto Etsy and other places like that, or go to a local craft show or farmer's market and see what people are selling and compare that. Are your bowls as good or better than those? If they are, then great, you're most likely ready. If your bowls aren't quite up to speed yet, that's okay. Just keep practicing, turn more bowls, build those skill sets, and now you've got a goal to be striving for. If you get nothing else from this video, please understand this. Turn what you enjoy making. Do not start making something for somebody else because you heard that they're making a lot of money with it, or it's what people are buying, or it's the trendy thing. Now, if it's a trendy thing and you enjoy making it, that's fine. But it's something that's out of your comfort zone, something you don't like to do, do not do it. Do this for your pleasure first. It's not necessarily a hobby when you get into this realm of it, but it's kind of like taking a hobby into a business. But you need to be doing what you enjoy. When you do what you enjoy, you're going to have a much better time and you're going to be much more successful rather than doing what other people want. I'll give you a perfect example of that. I make a lot of salad bowls like this. I love making these because they're really functional. People love them because they can use them on a daily basis. And a question I get all the time is, do you make salad tongs for tossing the salad and for serving the salad? And I have thought many times, maybe I should start playing with that and doing some of those. And I'm like, no, I don't do that. I like turning and I want to do that. I don't want to sit and try to make utensils necessarily. Although I did make some salad claws from a bowl, and if you haven't seen that, you might want to check that out. But that's a whole other thing. And I actually don't make those on a regular basis. I like turning bowls, and that's what I do. So I have to say no to things sometimes, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying no. So super important point, do what you enjoy doing or turning first and foremost, and the sales and the money will follow. Do not do things that you're not happy with. It's just that simple. Okay, this is probably the most important part of figuring out what your bowls are worth. You need to go out and do some research. Most likely in your community, you need to go and see craft shows, farmer markets, possibly art shows, and see if there are other woodworkers, particularly wood turners, selling their goods. What you want to do is you want to go see what they have to offer, see what their prices are, get a rough idea of the sizes that they're selling, and talk with them. See what works for them, what doesn't work for them. Here's kind of a pro tip, and it sounds a little stalkerish, but you're going to also want to kind of linger around that environment and watch from afar. See what customers are looking at when they come to that booth, and see if that person's making sales. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Maybe there's certain things that they have on display that are really popular with customers, and maybe some other sections aren't popular. Now, this is just research you're doing. Don't copy other people. There's no need to do that. Do your own thing, like I said earlier. But get an idea of what people are interested in and what they might be purchasing. Also, start getting an idea what prices other people are selling things at. Also, check out online stores such as Etsy and other places online that sell handmade pieces. Don't go to the big box stores that sell wooden bowls, because you don't want to see those mass-produced wood bowl prices, because that is not what you're selling. You are selling one-of-a-kind pieces of art, natural pieces of art. And you really kind of need to think of it that way. We need to not think of this so much as a consumer product that you're trying to get the cheapest price for the customer. You're trying to sell a piece of you, essentially. You're taking what you have created, something that has gone through you. It's gone through your thought process, through your skill sets, through all of your abilities on the lathe, and you've turned that into something that has value, and that's what we're pricing. So don't look at the big commercial places, because we're not selling something where I'm selling 100 of these that are all identical. No, I'm selling one-of-a-kind pieces of natural art, and that's very important to understand when we're doing this as well. Okay, it's time to address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is your personal baggage with money. Yep, we all have one. And it usually started in your upbringing and the way you were raised. You probably heard things like, "We can't afford that," or "The neighbor has one, why don't we get it?" Or "I don't care what it costs, I'm buying it." Or "I just don't think we can afford it right now." All of those things affect us, and they've affected us our entire life, whether we like it or not. And they affect the way that we in turn value our own creations and what we want to sell them for in the world. So this too runs the entire gamut, from incredibly frugal to eccentric and everywhere in between. I know people that believe that they shouldn't charge more than what their material costs were. So in other words, this live edge bowl would be a beautiful centerpiece that I know interior designers would purchase this for their customers, which would in turn mark it up tremendously. Essentially, with that thinking of, well, I shouldn't be charging much more than my material cost. Well, this material was gathered after a hurricane for free. So with that thinking, I guess there was gas that I used in my chainsaw and gas in my vehicle, so a few bucks. So maybe this should be priced for like $5 or $10. And you can see where this is going. If you have a mindset of that, you're going to undermine yourself and you're not going to profit much. On the other hand, you could have the other extreme, which is, I have never seen anything like this before. This is a one of a kind. It is a masterpiece, and this is $10,000. I am not going to accept less than $10,000. This should be in a museum. This should be in a museum. You can have that other extreme. And this is all part of our personal baggage that we carry along, and we have to step away from that because it clouds what reality is. And reality is what the market will bear is what we should be charging. Not less than that and not more than that. And the not less than that is actually really important, and we're going to talk about that later on. And that one is really, really important for all wood turners, so stay tuned for that. We have to know what the market will bear, and the market are our customers. So who is our customer? This is another thing that we have to think differently about. Our customer usually aren't other wood turners. Other wood turners that are going to look at a piece like this and go, oh, well, he could have done this, he could have done that. See, that's my brain criticizing the piece. And that can happen a lot of times when you're determining what you're going to value a piece for. But our market typically is not other wood turners. Our market are people that enjoy natural products, enjoy wood products, enjoy things made by hand. They enjoy bringing nature into their home. There are a lot of interior decorators that purchase wood turn bowls for their clients. So you need to be thinking in those terms. What are you creating for somebody that's outside of our sphere that they will enjoy having and they're willing to spend money for that? So think about your customer. Don't think about necessarily the fact that you're a wood turner and you're sharing this a lot of times, because a lot of times we got to face it. A lot of times our biggest audience are other wood turners. We turn a piece and we want to show it off to another wood turner, which is great because that also makes us accountable and we build our skills and we want to try to impress other wood turners, which is fine. But in the end, when we're selling this, it's usually not wood turners that are purchasing this. It's going to be a consumer that's going to want this piece for the beauty of it and want it in their home for display. And many of these can be used for fruit or produce, or they could just be put on a counter just to look at. So we have to keep that in mind. That's what people are looking for. Okay, so what do we need to be considering when we look at the costs that go into making a bowl? Well, we need to look at our time and our materials. All right, that's super, super important, and it's the basics. We're going to look at more here in just a second. But let's look at our time for just a second. How long does it take to turn a bowl? Well, if you're just starting out, a bowl like this could take you many hours or half a day maybe, or a day or two. If you are experienced, that bowl might take you less than an hour. But that's deceptive as well. How many hours went before that making that bowl? And this brings up a really big point that I want to get across. When you're pricing your work, please do not price it by the hour. And do not do commission work based on by the hour. Why? Well, think about it. If you're first starting out, this could take you, let's just say, for example, let's say it took 5 hours, all right? And let's say that in our marketplace, we've determined that a bowl like this can sell for $200, all right? We spent 5 hours on this at $200. Okay, well, that's $40 an hour. That's not bad. I'm pretty happy with that. So that's great. All right. It might be fine initially when you're turning slow like that, but what happens when you can do this same bowl in 30 minutes? And it can be done in 30 minutes. Or let's say between turning and finishing the bowl, it took you an hour. Okay, that is very doable. So now you get $40 an hour. So now all of a sudden, are you going to later, after you've become more experienced, more skilled, you're turning your bowls at a better, higher quality? Are you going to turn this, because it took you 1 hour, which we decided was $40 an hour is what you're making, are you going to sell this for $40 now? No, you can see how this works. If you charge by the hour, you're basically devaluing yourself as you improve, and as you get better and make higher quality turnings, you're actually devaluing yourself. So do not charge by the hour. You want to charge by the piece and what the value is to the customer, or like we said earlier, what the market will bear. And if the market will bear this as a $200 bowl, if you can make it in 30 minutes, you can essentially make $400 an hour if you can make 2 of these in an hour. You don't need to rush and do it necessarily, but that's a potential goal down the road. So don't be thinking about billing your time by the hour. It's only going to work against you. Now, the other factor is your materials. Now, had I purchased this bowl blank, it is a very large bowl blank. And I did not purchase this. This came from a tree that I collected. I have my time in the tree, in processing the tree and taking it down, but I didn't pay anything for this wood, which is fantastic. Plus it's spalted, which is absolutely beautiful. But that being said, if I bought this blank could have cost $50 or $100 easily. Well, if I've decided the marketplace will pay $200 for this bowl, and I've got $100 in the bowl blank, now I'm basically left with a $100 profit. So I need to consider that when I'm purchasing bowl blanks. Or potentially, can I add that bowl blank price into this bowl? So if I know the market will hold about $200 for this bowl, could I charge $300 for it? Maybe, maybe not. So you need to think about that when you're purchasing bowl blanks, and obviously you want to get them as reasonable as you can. There are hidden costs as well. And what are some of these hidden costs? Well, we have consumable or reusable items that we have to use all the time, like sandpaper, finishing materials, all sorts of things like that that you have in your shop. Now, typically for a piece like this, I'm not going to spend a lot on those, but there's going to be a few dollars worth of sandpaper and finish. Maybe there's, I don't know, 50 cents, $1 worth of finish on this. So all of those things need to be considered. Anything that you're consuming in your shop on a regular basis, that's all part of your expense. Now, what is another hidden cost? Yep, you got it, your equipment. If you have a beautiful lathe that costs several thousands of dollars, that's part of your cost. Now, obviously, you can't simply go to a market with a bowl like this and go, well, I have about $4,000 in my lathe, so this bowl is $4,200. So here you go. You can purchase that and you've paid for my lathe. Obviously, that's not going to work, but those hidden costs are going to basically be aggregated over many, many bowl purchases. And if you have lots of bowl purchases, you could pay off equipment that you've already purchased, or better yet, you can save from those bowl sales and accumulate your savings and purchase the equipment that you're looking for down the road. Some other things that we need to be considering are the cost for our packaging if we ship out our bowls, our price for marketing. We've got marketing materials that we put a business card in there, our price for our website, that always has expenses that needs to be maintained. And something that's super important that we can't overlook is our experience and our education. And when it comes to education, you should consider going to different symposiums, workshops, and you should really check out my courses online. Shameless plug here, but it's true because my courses are very affordable and they're going to help you get the skill sets that you need to turn bowls that people value and will be willing to purchase from you. So check those out. Okay, so what is my formula for pricing bowls? And there's a reason why I have a formula. It's quite simple. Every bowl is different. Every bowl is one of a kind. Every bowl is unique. This bowl is smaller than this bowl, and people aren't going to spend more for this bowl than this one. They're not even going to spend the same amount. If this bowl is $200, they're not going to spend $200 for this bowl. It's just not going to happen. So what is my formula for pricing my bowls? Well, here's how I do it. I take the diameter of a bowl, this is approximately 9 inches, by the height, which is approximately 4 inches, and I multiply those. So 9 times 4 equals 36. And then I take that number and I multiply it by 2 to 2.5. So 36 times 2 is 72, or $72, and 36 times 2.5 is $90. So somewhere between $72 and $90 is what I'll charge for that. Now I use this formula as a quick start way to get to a rough idea what the cost is going to be. At that point, I start looking at the individual bowl and say, wait a minute, okay, so this is once turned, which means I made it quicker and I didn't twice turn it. If you want to learn about twice turning, check out this video. I once turn it. It's pretty simple. It's not perfectly circular, which some people like that. I like that. Other people don't. That doesn't appeal to them. So I may price it down towards the bottom of that range, that $72 to $90 range. I might make this a $75 bowl. But then I look at the heart and the patterning here and how beautiful that is. And I look at the overall shape and I look at how functional that is. And I think, yeah, this is a really nice bowl. So $75 to maybe $80 is what I would price this at. So that gives me a go by. Okay, so now let's use that formula on this larger bowl. If I take this is about 12 inches by about 6 inches high. Well, that's 12 times 6 is 72. If I use that basis, 72 times 2 is 144. 72 times 2.5 is 180. So again, I'll look at this bowl and I'll look at its characteristics. This was twice turned. You can see this has a nice, perfectly circular rim. This is a really functional bowl. This could be used every day as a salad bowl. It can be used to display fruit or produce on your counter. And it has spalt. Spalt requires time. I cut these logs and I set them out, waited about 4 to 6 months. And this particular wood, this is pecan, spalted, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So this bowl is going to be up at the high end of that range. That range is $144 to $180. And I would charge around $180 for a bowl like this. In just a minute, I'm going to show you how to convert that to your currency, no matter where you might be in the world. All right, but before I do that, I have to share something with you, and I'm going to ask you not to sell your bowls. What? You might be thinking, what? If you've gotten to this point in this discussion that we're having, and you're really questioning whether you really want to sell your bowls for this much, or if you think your bowls are worth that much, or perhaps you think, I'm just doing this as a hobby, I don't need to make a lot of money, and I'll take this bowl and I'll go sell this at the local farmer's market for $20 or maybe $40, and I'll just do that, and that'll be fine. I'm going to plead with you, please do not do that. And you might be thinking, well, why? This would be nice. I can get that out there. Somebody gets this for $40 and I got rid of it. Again, maybe this goes back to the original, what we talked about at the very beginning. Maybe you're just trying to clear off some space in your house, or maybe your spouse is saying, get rid of these bowls. If that's the case, do not go someplace, especially locally in your local area, and sell them dirt cheap. Why? Well, and this also goes for reducing your prices. If you see that these prices are at a pretty consistent range amongst a bunch of woodworkers, and you decide, well, I'm going to come in there at like half their price or way lower than them, just so I can be the person that sells. I got news for you. What really happens is people don't think your pieces have value. That's what happens. And they question it. If you see something that seems to be too good to be true, if you go somewhere and you saw this beautiful bowl for $40, would you question it? I know I would. I would think something's wrong. There's something, maybe the wood species is something, I don't know. Maybe the finish is bad on it. Something's up, because that's way too low. However, there's plenty of people out there that will just hand over $40 and buy that bowl. And what you just did, if you do that, is you're devaluing your artwork, but worse, you're devaluing all of the other woodworkers' values too. And you're diminishing the overall beauty and perceived value of the artistic wood bowl turning. So people out there that are turning bowls that are actually trying to make a living or to earn income to pay off equipment and things like that, you're making it much more difficult for them to succeed as well. So please, if you're going to sell stuff dirt cheap or at a very reduced price, do not sell it. Don't do that. Take your items and give them away. Yes, you're going to feel much better about doing it that way. Give them to friends and family and neighbors. Go trade with other people. Go barter with other people. Maybe you find something that your neighbors have, or you find something online that somebody else is making, and maybe you can barter with them. Do that before selling your things dirt cheap. The other thing you might really consider doing, which is super satisfying, is take your bowls and give them to local charities that have auctions. Many local charities do an annual auction, or maybe they have different events where they have live auctions where they auction off different items that have been donated to them. And sometimes these auctions can generate a lot of income for that charity. You could turn your beautiful bowls, give them to a charity, and let them earn money from it. And by the way, if you go to those events and you see how much people are willing to run up the auction price for your bowls, you'll be shocked to realize your bowls have an incredible amount of value. So do that before you sell them at bargain basement prices, please. Okay, that's my public service announcement for this video. Okay, if you're somewhere else in the world and you're using some other currency other than the US dollar, and you're not using the inches and feet measuring system, then let me show you how you can come up with the same pricing formula that I use, or how you can convert it so that it works for you. So let's say we have a bowl like this. This bowl is approximately 20 centimeters wide by about 10 centimeters high. Well, it's very, very simple. You still have to do your research. You need to go to your local markets and get a general idea what people will spend for a piece of handmade work like this. You may go to your local market and find another wood turner selling a bowl about this size for 200, let's make up a currency. How about emeralds? 200 emeralds, okay? So if this bowl costs 200 emeralds at your local market and you have one, use the measurements. We go 20 centimeters by 10 centimeters. 20 times 10 equals 200. Well, of course, this just worked out just perfectly. So you would have a multiplying factor of 1, and perhaps you bring that up like 1 to 1.25. That might be your range of which you multiply it. So you do the diameter times the height times 1 to 1.25. Now you're going to have to do the math for whatever works out in your particular area. Perhaps this bowl's worth 5,000 emeralds where you live. Then you have to take the 200, or 5,000 divided by 200, the 20 times 10, 5,000 divided by 200, and then that would be your multiplying factor. So then you could go to another bowl. So now if you have that multiple, let's say the 1 to 1.25, and you have a different size bowl, which all of your bowls are probably going to be different size, and you measure that, this bowl is 30 centimeters by about 15 centimeters. So 30 times 15 is 450. So this bowl would be around 450 emeralds, and this bowl is around 200 emeralds. You can see the difference between them. It's that simple. So you basically just figure out what the multiple is for your currency in your environment and what people are purchasing, and use that to calculate the cost of your bowls. Okay, I know we covered a lot in this video, but it's really, really simple. Essentially what you need to do is you need to go out and do your research. And you need to get some cobwebs out of your head as far as the way you think about money and what you think your piece may be worth or not worth. And don't let that determine your pricing. Let the market and what the market will bear determine how much you charge for your pieces. And then you can use the formula, or a formula like the one that I use, which is the diameter of the bowl times the height times whatever your multiple is, to come up with a range of what your price is. But then you go through and you scrutinize it. Something else I was going to mention to you earlier when we talked about that was, when you have a piece like this that has a live edge, beautiful bark on it, and it's just a gorgeous piece, that you may charge more than what that range was. Essentially, that range is just to give you an idea and a starting point based on the size of the bowl. Because again, no two bowls are the same, and we make so many different sized pieces that there's no way to just have a flat rate for all the different bowls that you turn. All right, guys, if you've enjoyed this video and if you've learned something about pricing your bulls, please leave me a comment below. I greatly appreciate that. And if you haven't already, yep, you guessed it, click that like button, please. I greatly appreciate that. And subscribe if you're not already subscribing. If you want more information about pricing your bulls, and if you want to learn more about making a business out of turning bulls, check out the article on my website, Turn a Wood Bull. I'm going to put a link in the description below, so check out that link. There's a lot more information there. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy turning.